Good morning, everybody. Welcome along to Donington Park for day 2 of this British GT event, and we are kicking off our day with more Ginetta Junior action, the Michelin Ginetta Junior Championship that thoroughly entertained us yesterday afternoon with the race of the season so far. Certainly crammed an awful lot of drama and excitement into the 20 minutes, and the drivers hopefully managed to get a bit of sleep last night because they were up bright and early this morning to kick-start our Sunday of motorsport entertainment. The cars lining up on the grid, ready to head out on to their green flag lap, after which 20 minutes of excitement will begin. Andy McEwen here in the commentary box, Kai Bachin back alongside me again for a total of 6 Ginetta races over the course of the day, and I'm very happy personally that we're starting off with the juniors, because this is guaranteed, based on yesterday's race anyway, to wake us up.
Yeah, definitely the most chaotic and energetic of the races that we saw yesterday, and provided the most action for us in the commentary box and for everybody watching at home as well. We finished it off with Ginetta Juniors yesterday, and we're starting it off with it today, and what a day it will be. Yesterday, just a bit of a sneak preview of what we have in store for us today. As you mentioned, we have 6 races over the course of we have what is going to be 9 races over the course of the weekend there. A little bit of an issue there with Fernandez's car at the back of the grid. The marshal's having a bit of an inspection, but it looks like we shall be going green sometime soon.
Yeah, Chase Fernandez retired to the pit lane late in yesterday's race, so either damage or some sort of mechanical malady putting him out of the race, and I wonder whether perhaps the marshals were just checking there wasn't still an ongoing issue, but it looks as though they've given him the thumbs up to head out on the green flag lap, which should begin in a moment or two. Yesterday's race, as Kai was saying, was very exciting. We had a lot going on and an awful lot to talk about. It was a race that was won on the road by Freddie Slater, but he was one of a whole host of drivers handing out time penalties, most of them 5-second penalties for, guess what, exceeding track limits. So Hugo Schwarzer, who was second on the road, having come through from the back of the top 5 into second place in the closing stages, picking his way through all of the drama and chaos, he actually inherited the race victory. And that's of some significance because Freddie Slater had won all but one race coming into the weekend so far this season, had built up a healthy little championship cushion, and as a result of losing out on that race victory and dropping down into 5th position on corrected times, he loses a chunk of that championship advantage. He does, though, still start on pole position for this race, the grid for which is based upon 2nd fastest lap times from qualifying yesterday. So Freddie Slater for our racing has Alicia Parmovsky in the Elite Motorsport car for company on row 1. Then it's Luca Hopkinson and Charlie Hart, who had a time penalty yesterday and damage after a couple of collisions in the closing stages. Then yesterday's winner Hugo Schwarzer is 5th alongside Leo Robinson, ahead of Finn Harrison and Henry Jocelyn, who was also in the wars but is showing good pace this weekend. Mikey Porter likewise should move forward from 9th on the grid. He starts alongside Mackenzie Douglas on row 5. Row 6 for Freddie Allen and Felix Livesey, with Adi Robinson the Spaniard and Harry Moss sharing row number 7. Row 8 then is where you find Holly Mile there in the number 23 car. Tom Spragg for Prep Tech UK is next, ahead of Bria Anglis, and Reza Swarithan starting even further back on the grid than he did yesterday. One of the championship frontrunners, definitely worth keeping an eye on. Then Chase Fernandez will start at the very back of the 19 car grid. So cars made their way past the exhibition straight into the Fogarty S's, and lots of drivers, as I suggested there, Kai, starting a little bit out of position, I would say. We saw yesterday quite clearly in Ginetta Junior racing at Donington Park, you can overtake, you can make progress, but it is important to try and get away with that lead group, isn't it? So those starting further down the order have to get a wriggle on here.
Yeah, 100%, especially the drivers that feel like they should be further up. They may have been further up on the starting grid yesterday due to their fastest lap being better than their previous fastest lap, but obviously this going off, as you said, the 2nd fastest time set today. Here's Charlie Hart. It looks like that front of that car is fully repaired, as yesterday it was looking to be at 90-degree angle as he came down the straight.
It wasn't in showroom condition anymore, was it?
No, not
after yesterday's race. Charlie Hart involved in a couple of collisions towards the end of the race, mainly around the Melbourne Loop and the Goddard's hairpin, so he thankfully has been able to rely upon the Elite Motorsport team to fix the car and get him back out there. Caught a glimpse there of the 23 car of Holly Mile, but there, Hugo Schwarzer, yesterday's winner, moves up now into 2nd place in the championship. Early days, we're not even halfway through the season yet, but he is on 184 points. Freddie Slater points leader on 210, so it's still a 26-point cushion, but it is creeping down, and if Freddie Slater were to have another slip up today, then Hugo would be right on his coattails. Of course, Freddie Slater does start from pole though, and that is the ideal place from which to try and get his winning run back on track. The cars line up then ahead of 20 minutes of racing, the second race of the weekend here in the Michelin Ginetta Junior Championship. Red lights go on, red lights go out now. Really aggressive start there from the 48 car of Luca Hopkinson, immediately moving to the inside to try and cover. Hugo Schwarzer doing the same behind, but it's neck and neck again between Freddie Slater and Alicia Parmovsky for the lead. Parmovsky on the right, Slater on the left, just as they were into turn one yesterday, and it's the same result with Freddie Slater retaining the advantage as they make their way through Hollywood and down the hill. And now one of his R-Racing teammates coming up to challenge for second as well. That is Luca Hopkinson up alongside Parmovsky. Has he got second place? Well, Charlie Hart might be the first person to work that out because he's got a grandstand view of this battle. He goes to the inside, through will go Hopkinson, and Charlie Hart follows him. So Alicia Parmovsky, as we saw yesterday, Kai, fighting it out around the outside of Redgate, but ultimately losing out.
Parmovsky still in the walls there as she made her way out of the old hairpin, still side by side with Charlie Hart.
No.
Oh, and two drivers off. That's Leah Robinson. Oh, very heavy into the wall there. Hopefully the driver's all okay from that one. That was number 37 and the 38. So the 37 being Leah Robinson, the 38 being Finla Harrison. So both those drivers going veering off into the wall after heavy contact between two of them. Down the inside, we saw a move there. That was the number 78 making his way through, just trying to make up a couple of positions as we go through the field. That was Reza Siawufin, as he made up a few off that starting place. You can see in the background a few drivers still side by side trying to sort out their positions as they go down towards the Yetters.
Yep, into the left right they go. Reza Siawufin looking like he's making some good progress. The next target for him will be Henry Jocelyn, who started about 8 or 9 places further up the grid than he did. Almost certain that we'll see a safety car at some point. Oh, big dive there from Hugo Schwarzer, and he clatters into the side of Charlie Hart. Around he goes, and yesterday's winner unfortunately goes from hero to zero there with a very late move into the Melbourne hairpin, and almost end up gaining 2 places out of that, but a bit of contact sends him around. There is the best news all day, though. They are the 2 drivers involved in the shunt between Starkeys and Schwantz Curve, both walking away. So Finn Harrison, Leo Robinson both appear to be okay. The same cannot be said for their cars, though, and the teams will have plenty of work to do to get those machines ready for this afternoon's 3rd and final race of the weekend. So through Redgate Corner go the top 2. Freddie Slater even leading by nearly a full second over Hopkinson second, Charlie Hart third, surviving that clash with Hugo Schwarzer. And it's Alicia Parmovsky here, Kai, who seems to be struggling under big threat now from the rapidly starting Mikey Porter, excuse me.
Yeah, Mikey Porter doing a good job here. You can see all over the back of Parmovsky right now as they go down towards the old hairpin. Parmovsky covers on the inside. Porter trying to go the long way round, trying to get the switch back off a good exit. Not able to do so this time round. We now go back up the hill, and what a run here that you can see. One driver going round again. Everybody doing a good job to avoid that car.
That's Felix Livesey, who was in the gravel trap yesterday, I seem to recall, at the chicane. Now, has that car stalled? If it has, it's right in the middle of the road. One of the fastest parts of the circuit. On board again here with Mikey Porter, who's been bump drafting Alicia Parmovsky around most of the lap, but now he runs wide at Coppice Corner, and through on the inside goes Henry Jocelyn and one of the Fox Motorsport cars. That was Mackenzie Douglas. Reza Siawufin is in this group as well, so that could be 3 places lost, and Jocelyn isn't done yet. Goes up alongside Parmovsky now to the outside into the chicane. Very late on the brakes, but Parmovsky rolls into the corner a little bit faster. Track limits? What track limits? Straight over the curbs they go, and it is Parmovsky who stays ahead, but Henry Jocelyn is well up for the fight today.
Yeah, brave attempt for a move there from Jocelyn. He's going to have to cover the inside as they go down towards the Melbourne hairpin. Everybody just about filing through. You can see in the background there, that's the 24 trying to get involved as Mackenzie Douglas tries to make up a few positions as he goes through. There's yellow flags out, and is that a safety car that's now been deployed?
It is indeed. So whether this is for the lap 1 incident or because Felix Livesey is stuck on the track at the old hairpin, I'm not so sure, but either way, we're going safety car. And, well, ordinarily under these circumstances, I'd say all of the gaps will close. There weren't really any gaps to start with, this being Ginetta Junior racing after all. But Freddie Slater did have 0.6 of a second in hand over Luca Hopkinson. That will now, of course, disappear. Luca Hopkinson, non-finisher yesterday, one of 3 R-Racing cars that failed to finish. There, most likely, is the cause of the safety car. Then the 2 cars off. Bit of barrier damage to be repaired. The car's clearly in a dangerous position as well. But as we saw, both drivers are okay. So, lively start to the race, and with the safety car out on track now, we might be able to start piecing together a little bit of what happened. Incidentally, I've just seen out of the window, Felix Livesey did just come through to complete that lap, so he is still in the race. The only two cars we've lost them, Leo Robinson and Finn Harrison, down at this part of the circuit, where it's not uncommon to see cars making side-to-side contact, but thankfully relatively rare to see them spearing off into the barriers in quite that manner. So there the two cars sit at the side of the road, both heavily damaged. That will require a bit of time to be recovered, so it gives us time to dig deep into what was going on. This is Mikey Porter's view of a good start there from Finn Harrison. Makes a bit of contact with the back of Hugo Schwartz's car on the run into Redgate Corner. And then where do you go? You've got a face full of Ginetta G40s. He goes up the middle. There's a little bit of paint traded on the left, maybe on the right too. And Finn Harrison right in front of us. Now remember, Harrison's one of the two cars who in 20 seconds or so will be heading for the barriers. So I wonder whether Mikey Porter can give us a bit of a better idea as to what was going on. Out through the crane of curves, cold tyres, careful not to lose the rear as they drop down the hill, and then tentatively pitches it into the old hairpin. Now watch the two cars ahead. Harrison on the right. I reckon that's Robinson on the left, and Robinson is... oh, there just wasn't quite the space. Neither of them really giving each other a huge amount of room there, Kai. Your thoughts?
It's definitely a touch and go incident. We'll have a look at it again. It just looks there like the 37 of Leo Robinson tries to close the door, tries to squeeze off Harrison. It's definitely a difficult situation to call there. I'm sure the stewards will have a lot more angles, a lot more views to look at, as we're obviously not the stewards. We're the commentators, but we do have to call it as it goes.
Yes, but there's times like this where I'm grateful I'm not one of the stewards.
No,
it's a thankless task, unfortunately. One thing I will say is that the punishment didn't fit the crime, did it really? There was a tiny little touch at a very high-speed part of the circuit. It's really unfortunate the damage that's been done there, and it was almost actually the secondary impact as the cars bounced into each other off the barriers that did the most damage in some ways. So anyway, teams will be counting the costs of that already, but will be more than grateful to see that their drivers both appear to have emerged unscathed. So Freddie Slater the leader then, Luca Hopkinson second, Charlie Hart there, we're riding on board with him in fact, is in third place, Alicia Parmowski fourth, Henry Jocelyn fifth, having a really impressive weekend here. Henry Jocelyn might have retired from yesterday's race, but he showed top 5 or 6 potential, and he's now running inside the top 5 ahead of Porter. Reza Swarathan, meanwhile, Kai, from basically the back of the grid, is in 7th already after, what, a lap and a half of racing. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, we saw the 78 getting stuck in off the start. He was making a few positions and taking advantage of the situations that were going on around him. We're just having a look here at the cars being recovered and taken off the circuit. Luckily, we have great machinery to allow us to do so as quickly as possible, as the drivers are just going down through the bottom section past the old hairpin. Now, this is where the incident did take place. So the drivers just slowly through this section, trying to not cause any more incidents, especially under safety car. That's the last thing you want, obviously, under a safety car. It's a very important time for these drivers. They have a lot that they need to think about and they need to do with the cars. They need to maintain the internal temperature, the engine temperature, the tire temperature is probably one of the most important things that you need to keep an eye on right now. As you don't want to overheat your tires right now as you're under safety car. You don't want to let your tires go below an optimal temperature. You want to try and keep them in that sweet spot as long as possible, so when we do go green eventually, you're ready to go straight from the gun and take advantage of other drivers that weren't able to do so.
Yeah, exactly, especially when you're faced with the crane of curves pretty soon after that restart. You definitely want some heat in the tyres for heading down that spectacularly fast and undulating sequence of corners. Oops, that was almost a secondary accident as the car's being recovered down at Starkey's, but the marshals doing a fantastic job. Might be relatively early in the morning, but the marshals have been likely on post for about an hour now, ready and raring to go, and they always do a fantastic job of recovering vehicles safely but efficiently and rapidly as well. Sadly, not quite going to be rapid enough to get a restart this time. I don't think we're going to have one more lap behind the Ginetta safety car, which will take us into the second half of this second race of the weekend. And Freddie Slater, well, a tad disappointed, I think, about yesterday, especially having won on the road. You know, a 4th or a 5th place finish he probably could have taken if he'd been running in 4th or 5th all race, but to cross the line thinking you've won and then to be handed that penalty is disappointing. Yes, he had that big points lead, but in moments like that, Kai, that doesn't really matter too much to the driver. They just want the trophy.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, points is always important going towards your championship bid, but with such a large gap that Slater's already created over the course of the season, which he's already established over the drivers in behind him, he's not really worried about gaining just a few points. He wants to win every single race. He wants to get as many races as he can under his belt. And we actually spoke to Freddie before the beginning of the season. We asked him what was his biggest goal for the season. He said he wants to break the record of the amount of wins taking place in a season, and he's on course to do so far. He's only lost 2 races this season, obviously winning 5 of the races so far. The driver's going back down the hill. The cars have been cleared. Here's the incident there. We see Schwarzer diving down the inside of Pomorski, just overcooks it and clatters into the side of Charlie Hart there, rotating the car, and unfortunately that's going to drop him down to the back of the grid after what was such a high of a day yesterday, a low to start the race.
Yeah, got his first victory of the season yesterday. It might now be hard pushed to repeat that here this morning. I'm not even convinced he was trying to pass Palmovsky. I think he just missed his braking points, and then rather than run into the back of Alicia, sort of dived to the inside to avoid her and ended up clattering into Charlie Hart there. So really lose-lose situation, because both of those drivers are his teammates. So whichever way he went, he was likely to make contact with another Elite Motorsport car. There is the onboard from Mikey Porter behind, bang into the side of Charlie Hart's car. But that was 3 Elite Motorsport cars going into a corner, and one of them going a little bit too fast, and yeah, very, very nearly caused complete disaster for the team that really are going up against our racing in the championship this year. There is a teams championship, and that's going to be almost as exciting to monitor this season, Kai, as the drivers championship, because I keep saying that it's all about our racing and Elite Motorsport at the front. Okay, we get the odd Assetto or Fox car up near the front, but really our racing and Elite Motorsport, the most numerous car on the grid. Only 9 points between the 2 teams in the championship at the moment. Our racing ahead on 372, Elite on 363. And we don't talk about teams championships often in junior racing, but to the teams themselves, that is hugely important.
Yeah, the teams championship, it's a big deal for all of the teams taking part. I don't think the drivers will majorly be focused on it whilst they're in the cars. They obviously just want to be walking away with the highest position possible in the drivers championship. But I think every driver in a team, if they're able to take the team championship, they'll feel like they will have had an impact on that team's championship. And it's definitely something to be proud of on the side of the drivers, as well as everyone that's taken part. And it's a good hats off to the mechanics and everyone behind the scenes that also does a lot of work to get these cars prepared to get them on the circuit.
Exactly so. Those teams will now be watching on anxiously as we prepare for a restart with just under 8 minutes of racing to go. Freddie Slater leads them out of Goddard's, and the great work done by the marshals means that we are able to get another few laps of racing in here, 1 or 2 running wide onto the grass even before they get to the restart. But it's Freddie Slater who leads them down towards Redgate Corner then, with Luca Hopkinson in behind. Anyone going to make a jump to the inside at Redgate? Not on the front, but you can bet that Hugo Schwarzer is on the attack, and he is indeed looking at the inside there of the Fox Motorsports car, number 47 that was, of Harry Moss. Didn't get the move made on the way into Redgate Corner. As they run wheel to wheel down the hill through Hollywood, they are perhaps going to exchange the position down at the old hairpin. Around the outside through the left, Harry Moss in fairness leaves Schwarzer plenty of space, and Hugo's going to go through, levers him aside, and that will now cost Moss a couple of extra positions.
Yeah, a lot of action here off the restart right now. We're looking at the number 19 just leading the way in this battle as we go down the hill, up the hill and through the section. We just saw Pomorski there go through our vision. Not the start she would have been hoping for. Started on the front row of the grid, started in second position alongside Freddie Slater. Dropped a couple off the start, was able to regain those positions, able to gain a few off the actual start and off the restart. Not a bad jump. You can see our front 4 separated by pretty much nothing between those drivers. Slater, Hopkinson, Hart and Pomorski all diving down towards the S's now. Heavy under braking there, that's Charlie Hart. You saw a little bit of tyre smoke, a little bit of a lock up on the brakes there. Pomorski will try and take advantage of the lack of what will be momentum going down towards the hairpin down the bottom here. We're on board with Charlie Hart as we go down towards the hairpin and soon into Goddard's. A puff of smoke coming out the back of Hopkinson there.
Yeah, there wasn't there slightly, but nothing to worry about, I would suspect. 4-car breakaway at the front of the field, just about. There's a small gap back maybe to Mikey Porter in 5th, but in those top 4, we've got 2 Elite Motorsport cars following to our racing cars. So again, that teams championship battle really playing out in front of us. Freddie Allen up the inside of Harry Moss. In fact, defending a position there he was from Harry as they went through Goddard's corner. Across the line they go then. 7/10 of a second the advantage for Freddie Slater and a new fastest lap to boot. That's worth a bonus point in the championship, as here comes that battle that we were just mentioning through Goddard's. They're now heading into the right-hander at Redgate, and a defensive line there taken by Freddie Allen means that he retains 11th spot for now. And in fact, that delayed Moss on the exit and allowed Tom Spragg up the inside, so we might still see some positional changes just outside the top 10. Through the crane as they go. How's that one going to play out? Yeah, Spragg will go through there in the yellow-fronted Ginetta. Oh, and almost another place lost there by Harry Moss. He just got across in front of the 51 car of Adu Robinson. That was an aggressive defensive move, Kai.
Yeah, Edgy Robinson trying to take advantage of the situation at hand. You can see now trying to get involved in this battle. The number 31 as Livesey tries to go down the inside and around the outside of a very tricky place to get that one done. He's going to have to back out and slot in behind of Edgy Robinson. But we dive up the hill here. A great overtaking opportunity just before we make our way down towards the S's. If you get a good exit out of here, you might set yourself up nicely for the chicane. We see the drivers exit down the corner.
Change for fourth there, I think, Kai. That looked like Mikey Porter ahead of Alicia Parmovsky. So, yes, it is. Look, Parmovsky has lost a position. Not sure where that happened, but I noticed all of a sudden the top three had broken away a little bit further, and it was no longer the yellow and black car sitting in fourth place. Can she get that place back at the Melbourne hairpin? Maybe she can. A very late chink up the inside. There's a bit of a tap there as she goes through, and they might both now lose a place to Mackenzie Douglas, and indeed they do. Mackenzie Douglas gets past the pair of them. Henry Jocelyn also moves ahead of Mikey Porter, so 1 up and 3 back for the number 19 car ultimately, and that will not please him at all. Now Jocelyn back up the inside of Parmovsky as well. Henry Jocelyn becoming the most exciting driver to watch in a grid full of exciting drivers. Leans on Parmovsky, onto the grass goes the 21 car. It's getting lively again.
Yeah, drivers wheel to wheel on this track right now, and it was great positioning of the car there from Douglas to get himself up the inside of both of those cars and take advantage of the contact that had been taking place. And Henry Jocelyn, what a race he's having so far, definitely getting his elbows out on the circuit as he's making his way through the field and gaining position after position. Currently in 5th, made up 2 places on that last lap, and I would not be surprised if we see him make up a few more.
Really, I don't keep saying this, but I'm really impressed with Henry Jocelyn. I mean, he gains 1 position and then doesn't just settle into line. He immediately tries to gain another and another. He's always on the attack, except for now when he has to be on the defence because Alicia Parmovsky's alongside and she's on the grass heading to Schwann's curve. She was squeezed out beyond the edge of the curve. Reza Samurathan has gone through as a result of that. And well, Alicia Parmovsky's race is rather falling apart. She's now got the number 90 car of Chase Fernandez in behind, who remember started from the back of the grid. And then it's Hugo Schwarzer, who's not making the electrifying progress through the field, Kai, that I expected.
Yeah, one of the bollards there just getting spat out from underneath Parmovsky's car. I'm guessing that's from when she took a detour off the circuit there. But Parmovsky not really getting into the rhythm she would have hoped for this race. She has always been either on the offense or defense during this race. Definitely not a stop-start race that you would have been hoping for. And there's warning flags going out to the number 90 and the 78 as well. So both those drivers getting a bit of a slap on the wrist there by the stewards. Not happy with something that's going on the track. That's between Fernandez and Sia Woofin. Both of them still around each other on the track. One driver getting squeezed off. Was that Jocelyn?
It was, and that might have been Reza Samurathan up the inside. It was. So Samurathan, I think Mikey Porter had got either back ahead of Jocelyn or defending from him. But look, Jocelyn straight back up the inside again at the Goddard's hairpin. He just doesn't know how to settle for position, does he? He's got back ahead of Reza Samurathan. Fantastic driving that from Henry Jocelyn, not wanting to be knocked down the grid or knocked out of his rhythm. It seems impossible to knock him out of his rhythm. He just strikes straight back again, defends the inside line now into Redgate corner, but Reza Samurathan going to the outside line is one of the 2 drivers being warned about. We have to assume track limit being exceeded, the other being Chase Fernandez, the number 90 at the back of this group. Samurathan there with the over-under, the switchback move out of Redgate corner, does briefly get back ahead of Jocelyn, but we know that Henry is not going to settle for that.
No, not at all. We're looking on board with Charlie Hart here as he's trying to make up a few more positions. He's currently in 3rd position. He's not going to settle for that, though, as he's looking for 2nd as soon as possible. But we're back on this battle. Reza Siawufin's got a lot of work to do if he wants to stay in front of this battle. You can see tucked right under his bumper is Parmovsky and Schwartz. As we're looking right now, sorry, that's Jocelyn in behind, but Charlie Hart goes to the outside of Hopkinson. Will he be able to get the switch back? It looks like a little bit too tight of a corner, but what a great run out there from Douglas as he's now involved in this battle. We're diving down towards the S's. Is there going to be an attempt of an overtake from any of the drivers here going down towards? I would not think so, but going defensive in the middle of the track. Hopkinson's not going to risk it, and neither is Charlie Hart. He'll stay in behind for now.
Yeah, clever driving that from Charlie. He didn't really want to make the move there, but he wanted to force Hopkinson to defend into the chicane, then he'd be slow on the exit. It's actually Charlie under threat, though, as they head into the Melbourne hairpin, because Mackenzie Douglas, who started 10th on the grid, is now challenging for 3rd place in the blue and black number 24 car. Couldn't quite get it done round the outside. Disappointingly, we are about to start the final lap. It's another one of those races you don't want to end. Freddie Slater certainly enjoying himself out in front, but in a way he's missing out on all the fun because it's second on back where the majority of the action is. There goes Hugo Schwarzer out the inside of Henry Jocelyn, who actually on that lap has lost a couple of places because Alicia Palmowski has gone through. So 3 spots lost, I think, with Sarurathan, Palmowski and Schwarzer all finding a way past Henry Jocelyn. But they begin the final lap now, meaning that they've got a few more chances of Henry to try and get places back up the inside into Regate, clatters down the side of Hugo Schwarzer's number 33, and he's back through. It wasn't pretty, but it worked.
No good racecraft here from Henry Jocelyn, just getting himself involved in the battle, positioning the car where he needs to get the overtakes done. We go down the hill towards the old hairpin here. Is there an attempt for an overtake in the background? Jocelyn just about holding on to it. Palmowski under a world of pressure right now. A 3-car train in behind her, and she's not safe at all going on to this final lap as all the drivers behind are raring and ready to go, going to pounce at any opportunity available to them. We're looking at Charlie Hart there as he's still breathing down the neck of Hopkinson, but here's the battle which we're all focused on, kicking up a little bit of dust as the drivers go through.
A number of these drivers being warned about track limits. You'll be shocked to hear Alicia Palmowski is one of them, the number 21 car. Charlie Hart, number 50, is not one of them actually today, so it looks as though he's going to evade a penalty, we hope, anyway, with just under half a lap to go. Can he, though, move one step further up the podium? Or will indeed Mackenzie Douglas knock him out of the top 3 altogether? Through the Fogarty S's they go for the final time. Plenty of curb use. It's the final lap, though, so you might as well use up some of your track limits uses that you've got in hand, and that really seemed to work for Charlie Hart because Hopkinson immediately moves to cover the inside of the Melbourne hairpin. They're all ducking and diving, trying to attack, trying to defend simultaneously. That looks like Chase Fernandez up the inside of Hugo Schwarzer, well, whose race today could not be much more different from yesterday's race-winning performance. Freddie Slater, though, looks as though he is going to get a race victory. Who will be 3rd, though? That's the battle into the final corner. To the outside, Douglas. To the inside, Charlie Hart. Can Mackenzie Douglas go right round the outside? Surely not. Oh, no, there's contact. Off he goes, and through will come Mikey Porter to steal 4th place, and maybe Reza Sarurathan into 5th as well. Slater wins the race, Hopkinson 2nd, Hart 3rd, Porter 4th, Sarurathan does get 5th, and poor Mackenzie Douglas ends up out of the top 5 altogether in 6th. Alicia Palmowski 7th, Henry Jocelyn is 8th, ahead of Chase Fernandez and Hugo Schwartz. There's a 5-second penalty going to Adu Robinson, who just nipped up the inside there of Felix Livesey, but it won't matter because those 5 seconds to be added on for track limits mean that he will drop back behind Livesey and likely behind Freddie Allen as well, who I think was the next car, sorry, Holly Mile was the next car coming through, who will move back into 14th place. Well, Ginetta Juniors, they never failed to entertain, and whilst Freddie Slater won that race by 2.3 seconds, Kai, didn't really tell the full story. That was another cracking race.
Yeah, not at all. Another win that Slater can put under his belt, though. Just walked away from the rest of the field. He distanced himself from all the carnage and the battling that was going on in behind him, focused on himself and drove away from the rest of the field. You could not ask anything more from Slater in that race. It was beautiful.
So, Freddie Slater then claiming the race victory with Luca Hopkinson in 2nd position. Charlie Hart getting on the podium in 3rd place again with Mikey Porter 4th, Reza Sarurathan in 5th, ahead of Mackenzie Douglas and Alicia Palmowski, one of a couple of drivers who won't be particularly happy with how that race went, having started on the front row. Henry Jocelyn ends up 8th. I really do feel he deserved more than that, but anyway, got muscled down the order a bit towards the end. 9th place then for Chase Fernandez, 10th Hugo Schwarzer, and then outside the top 10 we had Harry Moss, Tom Spragg, Felix Livesey, Holly Mile, Adu Robinson with the 5-second penalty, and Freddie Allen in 16th place. We lost, of course, Leo Robinson and Finn Harrison with that dramatic accident on the opening lap of racing. So 16 of them to the flag. We hope that we will get all 18 back on the grid later on. 18 starters means we'd lost somebody anyway from that race. Bria Anglis did not take the start, it would seem. So we're down 1 already. Hopefully Bria will be back out in the 3rd race later on, which is due to start at around about 3:20. We'll have more Ginetta action on the way, though. GT Academy will be up in about 30 minutes or so, and then the Ginetta GT Championship straight after that, before all three of our Ginetta categories racing on the British GT package this year will be back out to race again later on. So Freddie Slater then claiming his 6th race win, I think that is now, of the season, does now further extend that championship lead, and well, with Hugo Schwartz's problems there, Riza Saburathan perhaps will close in as well, but we still have one more race to go later on today, during which it could all change again. So, highlights then of another dramatic round in the Michelin Ginetta Junior Championship. The second race of the weekend saw, once again, Freddie Slater and Alicia Parmovsky do battle into turn 1. It's becoming a familiar sight in 2023, but just as in yesterday's race, Parmovsky trying to hang it tough round the outside, actually ended up losing ground, and that would sadly be rather the story of her race. Slater held on to the advantage, but there was drama further behind as Leah Robinson and Finn Harrison tangled heading towards Schwang's curve. A tiny touch that had dramatic consequences. They both speared right into the barriers and lots of damage done to both cars. Thankfully, both drivers got out and were okay, but the teams will have work to be done before race 3 later on. Then 3 Elite Motorsport cars into 1 didn't go, and Hugo Schwarzer ended up bouncing off the side of Charlie Haar's car. Yesterday's race winner was around and fell to the back of the pack. After a brief safety car interlude, the racing was as fierce as you would expect, with lots of battling up and down the order. Tom Sprague was engaged in a side-by-side tussle with Harry Moss, those two getting through the Crater curves, thankfully without contact, and Tom Sprague able to move ahead. Immediately after the restart, Alicia Parmovsky looked as though she was strong in 4th, but then lost a place to Mikey Porter, and that would start a bit of a downwards curve for the Elite Motorsport driver, who would eventually see the flag only in 7th place. Freddie Slater, though, was able to pull clear out in front and claim in the end a pretty comfortable victory over Luca Hopkinson 2nd, whilst Charlie Hart fended off Mackenzie Douglas for 3rd through the left-hand hairpin at Goddard. Douglas ran wide and lost a couple of places onto the run to the flag. Freddie Slater, though, victorious in the second race here at Donington Park. Can he claim another race victory in race 3? Tune in later on this afternoon to find out.